So how's it going, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brexter and I create content anything Yu-Gi-Oh and everything Yu-Gi-Oh. Today guys, we're not doing any deck profiles or whatsoever, but instead we'll just do any tier list for the Limit 1 Festival. So it's been 3 days since the launch of the Limit 1 Festival, and yeah, I made a ton of decks, does the same thing, grind all the rewards, whatever. Every deck for this festival is pretty good. It's just a matter of the importance of a hand trap, spell card, or a trap card that can win you the game. So that's what we're gonna talk about today. And of course, if you ever want a deck list for a specific archetype on this festival, because I've done Resonator, Sword Soul Tenyi, yeah, and then was it Despia, Shadal, Invoke, and there's quite a lot. I've created a lot just for the festival, just to tweak and just to have fun in general. But yeah, if you want a copy of those, just tell me in the comments below. So let's proceed now to the browser for the tier list. So tier list. So here we are, guys. These are the cards that I've seen by far, and on my own experience throughout the festival, these are the prominent cards that are seen as hand traps, magic cards, or trap cards. So, and of course, this is based on the Master Duel website, where hand traps whatsoever the players that are using commonly in the deck profiles or their deck profiles. So to start off, we are gonna talk about Ash Blossom. So Ash Blossom, I would place this one as a must-have, mainly because it doesn't allow your opponent to search. So that's basically it. And there is a teeny tiny chance where your opponent draws into a cross-out designator or a Call by the Grave. So Ash Blossom is pretty useful. Next up, we have Call by the Grave. So Call by the Grave is a must-have as well. And negation to a Maxi or an Ash Blossom really helps you a lot. And other than that, you can banish monsters from the graveyard out of play just to negate their effects, of course. So yeah. Next up, we have Moonlit Chill. So I would place this one either on, depend on the deck. As by far what I see with Moonlit Chill is it's good if you're using a burn deck. Just because, well, yeah, basically it just burns your opponent for the amount of attack that you negated on a monster. So yeah, and I've dealt with players using a burn deck just once, of course. Yeah, so Moonlit Chill will be depending on the deck. Next, we have Crossout Designator. So Crossout Designator is a must-have. So think of this is if ever you have a ton of staple magic or traps in your deck, and this can even negate Call by the Grave, Imperm, Ash Blossom, just basically everything that, as long as you have the same copy in your main deck. So yeah. Next up, you have DD Crow. I would place this one as optional or depend on deck, but let's just place this on depend on deck, because I played with a guy who's using Gren Maju in their main deck. So banishing monsters is a thing for him. So having DD Crow as an additional card really helped them a lot on that deck. So that it's either optional or it depends on the deck. There's some cases I would place this one as optional because how good DD Crow is. But if you just want to negate the effect of the monster, just go with Call by the Grave. Alright. So next up, we have Dark Hole. I would place this one as optional. So optional because if you want to destroy your opponent's monster, just go with Regeki. But if you ever want to destroy your own monster with your opponent's, then go for Dark Hole. Go for it. So that's my own understanding. Next up, we have Dark Ruler No More. I would place this one definitely in a must-have in every deck, because so this card really allows you to play through a heavily bodied monster on your opponent's side of the field if ever you are going on second. A good end board on your opponent's side of the field, then you just Dark Ruler No More. Actually just stops everything on their tracks. They can't use their effects, and you can just freely move along and use your combos, or even just do a Raigeki. So yeah, Dark Ruler No More is pretty good. Next up you have here is Evenly Matched. So Evenly Matched, I would place this one as optional because you don't want to wait for your opponent to attack you then use this effect. It's either you lose that turn from all of its attacks, or in some cases it rarely pops out because you only have one card in the festival, guys. So yeah. Next up, we have Harpy Spider Duster. So yeah, having Harpies, Regeki, and Lightning Storm into the deck is pretty good. Let's just place that one there. So my own understanding for this. So if ever you have a Harpy Spider Duster or a Regeki and it got negated, then you have Lightning Storm. And same thing if you have a Lightning Storm, just to use it if its effect for a front row or a back row, then it gets negated. Then you either have your own very own Regeki or Harpy Spider Duster for that. So that's basically my mindset for it. Next up, we have Gozen Match. Gozen Match, I would place this one definitely on a must-have in the deck. Mainly because there are a ton of other archetypes just jumbled into one or just combined into one main deck. And this really helps a lot to cut down the monsters on your opponent's side of the field. Just because they have different attributes. Yeah, especially Sword Soul. This really helps your game a lot. So next we have Imperm. Imperm, I would place this one as a must-have because Imperm can negate. You can just negate from your hand. It's the same as Effect Veiler, but and also the ups for this card is that if ever you set this card and activate it, that column is useless now. So a good Imperm or a good Effect Veiler is pretty good. Next up, we have Solemn Judgments. So I would place Solemn Judgment on Meh because the game for Limit 1 Festival doesn't take 1 to 2 turns to end. So most of often of times it goes beyond 3 turns. So having you to half your life points in that sense, it will eventually lose you the game. Judgment, I don't want to lose any life points the mid to late game. Because of Judgment, just to negate one summon or spell or trap. So yeah, it's a meh for me for Judgment. Next up, we have Kaiju. I would place Kaiju as a must-have because Kaiju can, and also this also applies to Lava Golem if you have a copy. But Kaiju is much preferable because most often times, your opponent has only 2 to 3 boss monsters most often of times as his end board. So Kaiju is good. Next up, we have Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. I would place this one as optional. Although the effects of Ghost Bell is pretty good if your opponent is trail summoning monsters from the graveyard or removing anything from the graveyard, using Ghost Bell is pretty good. So understand this, the festival is only 1 card limit for every card that they have in their deck. So it's better to search those cards and activate them on the field. Might as well just negate the effect of searching rather than waiting for them to be outside of your deck. So yeah. Next up, we have Maxi. I would place Maxi as must-have, mainly because Maxi, if you have this on your starting hand and your opponent is going first, either he'll stop his special summoning and pass his turn to you, or he goes with a spell summon a ton of monsters, and then you draw your good cards by the help of Maxi. So that's basically the situation there. Next up, we have Nibiru. So Nibiru, it's highly optional for this, for the festival, mainly because not most often of times there's sometimes you couldn't draw into Nibiru as your starting hand, and he already has a good end board. So that's basically it. But yeah, optional guys. It's your preference if you want Nibiru in your deck or not. Next up, we have Rivalry of the Warlords. I would like to place this one as optional as well. It's not Gozen Match. That's basically my own understanding for it. Rivalry is more on type dependent. So there are a ton of players who are using, like for example, Sword Soul. Sword Soul are really prominent in the festival nowadays. What they have in common is their type. So they mostly run with worm monsters. So unlike Gozen Match, which is only attribute limited, much better you go with Gozen Match rather than Rivalry. So yeah. Next up, we have Snow Rabbit. So Snow Rabbit, if you want to negate the activation of a face-up monster or spell, a face-up monster, you can either go with Imperm or Effect Veiler. If for a spell, you just have to destroy that spell card, you know? Much better. So I'd place this one on a meh for me. Same goes with Solemn Strike and Solemn Warning. Yeah, Solemn Warning. Although they are not that heavily paid for, unlike Solemn Judgment, but yeah, having to negate and then pay an amount of life points just to have that I don't think that's preferable for this archetype, but it's up to you really. For me, it's somewhat, it's okay, but I don't want to use it in a deck. It's kind of like that, okay? I don't think it's bad, you know. Next up, you have Triple Tactics Talent. So Triple Tactics Talent, I would place this one as optional, because if you want to just draw 2 cards, there are pot cards. You can just draw 2 cards. Other than that, requirement having your opponent to use an effect monster during your turn. So I don't think so. Nevertheless, it's optional. Next, we have Effect Veiler. I'll place this one as a must-have because Effect Veiler is pretty good. It's kind of like Infirm. Next up, we have Twin Twisters. So here we go with optional. Because if you want to destroy the back rows, then just go with Harpy's Feather Duster or Lightning Storm. Other than that, if ever you want to discard cards to your graveyard, then go with Twin Twisters. Okay. There are some cases wherein you're using Shadows or some Despias and you have a tragedy on hand. Twin Twister is the card for you. Or even zombies. Yeah, there are zombies. There are zombie Eldritch that is still running amok in the festival. So you can use Twin Twister for that. Then prompt the effect for example, Uni Zombie in the graveyard. Cyframe Gear Gamma. It can be a must-have or an optional. So I just place Cyframe Gear Gamma as optional because understanding that you need to have 2 cards to prompt its effect. I mean, don't get me wrong, having the effect to negate and destroy an effect monster is pretty good, but yeah, optional. It's still optional. So yeah, Cyframe Gear Gamma is optional. So that is the tier list, guys. So if ever I missed anything or you have any violent reactions towards this tier list, comment down below. Alright, so that's it for today, and keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, subscribe, like the video, whatever, and then see you guys in the next video. Keep safe, good luck, and have a good day.